Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM23 Youth Factory. This is episode number 40. We are preparing to enter the Vanarama National League, but not the proper. We're in the secondary division of that, the Vanarama National South, or at least we should be in the South. We'll see here in a second. But we are amongst 8 promoted sides into those 2 divisions. So 4 new teams in each division relegated to the National League. Also joining us, and this is a hefty size group, is 4 teams coming down from the National League. That means there are 2 promotion spots out of each of the 2 divisions to where finally in that 5th tier, if we get there, assuming we probably will, but you never know how bad the exodus could be this season. It's mid-June. We haven't lost anyone as of yet, but coming back to that in a second. That's a lot of changeover. 2 promotion spots. If we can hang on to our squad, I make us favorites to go up. I think we'll have plenty of talent, plenty about us to make that happen. In the end, with our winnings for the league and whatnot, we did end up picking up a small profit over the year, or a decent profit over the year, $600K, which is leaving us with a tax bill of $110K. Very small compared to what we had last season, and that is essentially pennies. I am inclined of the impression that I should probably go ahead and cash in on one of our outstanding clauses on one of the players, as that influx of cash could come in real handy here in the next little bit. We'll get into why we could really use that the next little bit. But we have a new main jersey sponsor worth $26K. Our previous was just 14, and that was up from the previous year as well. So we're definitely collecting some extra funds these days as we move up the ladder. Big news on the personal front. I have just, about 2 weeks ago, signed a new contract. Likewise, 2 days after signing that contract, the board finally agreed to let me study for the National B license. I have a National C currently. It's literally the first step. We're finally moving on to the second step. I have 2 versions of that lowest step license already. One that I got from Japan, one from Washington. Oh, and I'm excited for this one. Okay, small little detail. So most of you know that I coach. I coach throughout the school year. I coach for the school that I used to teach at before I left that behind to open the daycare, run the daycare, giving me all that extra time in which that I started the channel. But I continued coaching when I left teaching behind. I coach volleyball, girls basketball, boys basketball, and track. I'm the head coach for all 4 of those. My district does not have a soccer program at our level. And without it, I haven't coached soccer in a number of years, though I have coached for a long time over my lifetime. I've missed it. I've missed it severely. Final confirmation is still pending, but fingers crossed. We have the go-ahead for soccer finally coming to our level beginning next year, and I am ready to take over the girls program at the expense of boys basketball. Don't want to give that up, but they occur at the same time, and I can't coach both. I'm excited for that. Very, very, very excited for that. Well, it looks like I wouldn't have to cash in directly. Whole championship level currently have come in for an initial $15.75 million offer, with potential fee rising to $19.25 for Brody Bick. We have a 50% clause for that one, so we are looking at $7.5 million to potential near $10 million coming in. That's a whole lot of cash. And that'll take care of our problem that we have. Speaking of problems, we are getting offers this summer, plenty, but they've been very, very low ball offers outside of the bottom end of range, or just at the very bottom end of range of what we have for players. But by July, I expect that those offers are going to start increasing in value and could become problematic. Lanahan, Penn, Reese, among a handful of players that we are getting those minor offers on. Breaking into regional reputation is not where we're at, but our division, Yeovil, the top-ranked Vanarama National North or South team coming at 1.5 stars and a regional reputation. They're not the only ones to do there, as Torquay and Oldham have also broken into that category. There is a number of other National League teams that appear. Looks like Kings Lynn, who's getting relegated, I remember, to our level. Kidderminster also getting relegated to our level, so they've already fallen into what we have. Billericay is the first non-sixth tier and above team to show up here in the reputation rankings. For now, you got to get down there a ways. We still have some Vanarama National South teams. Corinthian Casuals, Farsley Celtic, Macclesfield, Staines, who doesn't even have a division anymore. There's Radcliffe. This is all 1-star teams now, by the way. And there we come in. Stratford just above us. Ramsgate just below us. We're not even last. That's awesome. As we're going to be heading up. Kettering Town just right there next to us. With our boost, you could see our new reputation is fully 1-star. We have broken over the breakpoint being just below us. Real Bedford, who also just promoted. They too have gone from a 1/2 star to a full star reputation. They, along with us, are right there, neck and neck. Weston Supermare have just a 1/2 star now. But that's the tipping point. We have gone beyond it finally. We are now a 1-star reputation club. 1 star. But when you look at our scroll bar, very top is right there. Scroll bar is just below the very top. We have eclipsed well over, well, not well. I'd say we've eclipsed 90%. Probably right about 90%. Maybe a little below that, maybe 88, 87. But we're absolutely into the top 10 to 12% of all clubs now. And we are almost relative to our level, despite the rate of climb. Bedford has done the same thing we have. They've won the 1 title. We've been in the same division 2 years running. We won 1, they won 1. But they've been climbing just like we have of late. And unlike us, though, they've had a transfer budget. They've been able to bring in players. They've been professional much longer than we have. A good 4 years already. We have better facilities than they do. It did show, as that season went on, that we out-developed comparatively to them, or one would assume, and we should both be in the same division this year, as we've both promoted from the same ultimate region. We'll both be in the Vanarama National South. But in joining the Vanarama National South, we now have a rule set that has kicked in and has instantly become a problem. Minimum stadium capacity for the Vanarama National South is 3K. Minimum seating capacity of 250. We have 1,500 seated, but that's also our capacity. We are 1,500 shy of what is necessary. This huge influx of cash we're about to get added with the 5 million we already have will guaranteed put us up to about 12 million or so. And this year we didn't have a big tax bill. I don't suspect we're going to have a huge one in the coming year because we're going to be spending a lot of money. How much, I don't know, but one would guess that it's going to be at least 7 million, probably a little bit higher, 10 million even, to double our capacity. For now, we've agreed a deal to loan out the Falmouth Town Stadium, which we're above them. Brand new stadium, just built in 2028. It's only 31,000. That's not going to cost us hardly anything. You add that together with the 110K tax bill that we have, and we're going to have no problems running a profit for the most part this season. Though, one would expect we are going to be spending a lot more on salaries. I've had some big increases. A lot of players were at 6,000 to 8,000 before, are suddenly at 20 to 25. So we're looking at pretty healthy increases to the overall salaries for the first team. Their stadium, 3,572 capacity, just 500 seated. It's better in every way than the stadium we were renting last year for all but literally the final game of the season. We've played one single match in our own stadium. That's it. Bigger problem here, as we go to Bickland Park in Falmouth, is that Falmouth, it's a lot further away. It's just over an hour away. So it's an hour worth of travel for every home game for our club. And we're still just local reputation. I think that could make it a little tricky to have very many fans coming to our games. Bick accepts the deal and moves on to Hull City. The Tigers have taken him off of Burnley, who I believe is also in the championship right now, or at least they were last I saw. 16K is what we originally lost him for. Him going for 15.75 million. When we get 50% of the fee, we're going to get 6.5 million up front. We're going to get 1.5 million in installments. Nice. That's good. Bick, who is currently 20 years of age, is a leading Sky Bet Championship level player with still potential to be a standard Premier League player. A balance of 11.2 million, which puts us in a very good position for a potential stadium upgrade, something that is being discussed by the club, and now that we have those extra finances, hoping to hear something very soon about that, because if they're going to have something done within a year, they really need to get that project on the go. New year, new squad setup. Let's start with the U18s. Most of these players are from this last year's intake, with at least a few from the previous years, but certainly there's got to be more. There's got to be guys that came in at 15 that are 16 now but haven't quite turned 17 yet. It's definitely not just one intake. Best player in our U18s is Sam Julian, but that is now our backup, our second best goalkeeper that we have overall at the club. We need him to have playing time, not rotting away on the bench. So Greg can continue to rot away on the bench for us while Sam Julian gets better and better. Bertielli, he could be contending with Bertielli sooner rather than later. Certainly has much better potential than Bertielli, or at least has better. I don't know about how much, but 148's up there. There is some potential here, but overall it's not great. We're looking at 75 to low 90s for the guys that are here, other than Gouven, right winger and or striker, a 57, 119. He's the one to keep an eye on this season other than Julian. U21s has gone through a bit of a reshaping. For one thing, a lot of U18 players just graduated into the U21s. Also, I let 7 youth players go. 6 of those were in the U21s. 1 of those was in the U18s, and amongst those who would now be in the U21s that aged up. So minus 7 players from that group. There's a good 10 to 12 that moved up. So we have a larger U21s roster than we did a year ago. Now my U23s is still totally blank, but there's not enough players here to try to fill out a U21s team and start scheduling friendlies for them. Right now we have a U21s head coach and nothing more, and they can contribute to our overall staffing project, our training with the senior team, but otherwise our U23s remains defunct. There's only a single player here in Casey Mildenhall that is now over 21, so all of them are eligible otherwise. And generally the league rules are you're allowed to play 3 players or 5 players or whatever it is, depends on the league. You're allowed to play a few that are over 21. It's a development stage. They don't want it all to be old players. They don't want a bunch of 30 and 40-year-old somethings going out and playing because they're just not good enough to be on the senior team. It is supposed to be a place for development, but sometimes a 24 or a 26-year-old player is still developing, is a solid backup. You need to have a backup in case of injuries, and it's the only way for them to get time. But what we're looking at quality wise here is, for one thing, we've got a lot of those 30 to 35 current ability players down here. 18, 20, they're all still in that range, but you do have a couple older guys. Besides Mildenhall, I have opted to loan him out, but also Woodward and Campbell, all wingers. I have too many wingers as it is. It's easy to part ways with them for the season and see if anything could happen regarding those guys, because this is now the group that's in jeopardy of not getting renewed this season. And the only reason why they've been renewed so far is they've just got better potential than the guys that we let go. The players we let go were all 70 to 75 potential ability for the most part, and lacking current ability. They were below 40. So below 40 with only some potential meant we finally have an intake that exceeded that quality, and we're able to part ways with them. We're upgrading. Our depth is upgrading at least. Here, potential-wise, we're looking at two players, Dashfield, left fullback, 42-100, and Hutchings, their goalkeeper, but only a 44 current ability with 121 potential. In terms of current ability, with those players promoted largely, we're looking now at quite a few players that are a little bit better than what we had. Last year, our U21s did not win a single game. They gave up 2 to 3 goals on average per game, hardly ever scoring. U18s were near the bottom of the league. They weren't last. They were next to last. They had 2-3 wins. They had 2-3 draws. Lost the rest. Still had a negative goal differential. Weren't much better than our U21s, but were better. We promoted a lot of players. I think our U18s are going to be similar to where they were a year ago. But our U21s, with this, we let go 7 guys, or let go 6 from the U21s. And with those players that came up, there's definitely a little more quality here, both in terms of potential and current ability, that I suspect our U21s will at some stage grab a point. Maybe this season, maybe not, but I think either way they're going to get a little bit closer. They're not going to be minus 2.7 goals per game like they were last season. I think maybe they'll be minus 2 goals a game, but either way, I suspect they'll be a little bit better. Ryan Gordon's gone, so the simple move, and we might not necessarily use it all the time, the most simple thing to do is just take Adekunle and move him into the spot. There are other options. Lanahan Penreese has shown he's very capable of playing on top. Sumahoro looks like he could play in a different wing spot. Also, Dan Kitching has gone from a backup to, he's really forced himself into the starting rotation in more than one way. His quality, he has out-improved those around him. He deserves to start. But also, his deserving of that is twofold. He has essentially demanded that he gets a chance to start. He didn't have the best form at the end of the season, but up until the end of the season, he had been pretty good. He just had a couple of bad games there down the stretch. Kitching is going to feature a lot more, and in his contract, I've agreed a little bit just to get him signed on. Otherwise, we weren't going to be able to. So he is going to have to start more often. Right now, Chris Webb is the weakest of the 4 guys at position that he wants. He wants to play defensive mid, though. We've already got Moreland. We've already got Atkins. Atkins is one of those players that I could be losing in the next little bit, and that sucks because he's only a 115 potential. He's nearing his maximum potential and can be useful for us for at least the next 2 years, maybe 3 years before we get above a certain level. Well, last year we only had, 3 players above an 80? We now have almost an entire first team. We have 10. We have an 11th in Dan Kitching, so we really do have 11 players that are 80 or better now. Big turnaround from last season. There's also 2 more guys right there, Davidson, McFadden, the last starter, who isn't an 80, and then there's still some quality on the bench behind them. Tom Evans is the one that I'm desperate to replace at this point, as he is not growing, not developing. He was a 43, maybe. He's a 45 now, and even though he's got potential, he's just not really realizing that potential. And he is getting game time. So I might look to my U21s, my U18s, and see if I can find a better backup center back. But otherwise, the squad is starting to shape up already. But it's only the 1st of July, so there's plenty of time for other teams to come in, steal our guys away. Right now, I've got 20 in the senior squad. We'll see if anything changes. Of course, if anyone comes in and steals a player away, I do have the option to force that we do get a loan back for the year. I think that's only fair. But other than the potential to lose players in the coming months, that's going to be it for this preseason. We are ready to get started on the new season with, a growing, developing squad that's getting better and better. I mean, we've got 4 guys that are better than anything we had on the squad last year, and we've already lost Ryan Gordon. He's already out. We've already replaced him with somebody that is as good as he was at this time last year, but surrounded by players that he was second best. Adekunle is now, our 10th best player, whatever the case may be with that one. That's a significant difference from a year ago. We are playing at a higher level. We are now officially into the FM authentic database of 6 tiers. We're in that 6th tier now. With that, some of the rules, some of the reputation things, some of the AI handling of various activities is going to be a little more realistic from here. Sometimes a modded database doesn't always go fluidly. This has gone really well, but that's not to say that there hasn't been a few odd things that kind of pop up, like a super early professional jump from Real Bedford. Our timing seemed about right. We were in the 7th tier. There's a lot of 6th tier teams that are professional. It's not the whole league, but there's a lot of them that are. So to be just 1 tier below that with a team with money made sense. Before I wrap this episode up, that prospect, the time between now and the start of the actual season, what we have to navigate here is the transfer market. Here's my thoughts on the matter before I end this episode. Teams are offering us something, and it's in the low end. But 10, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, that's a lot for our level. But it's not a lot for us. But I do have rules. I do have restrictions about we've got to let players go. Now, of course, there's the percentage of next sale, the arranged friendly that we're already even seeing right now in offers. I mean, we're at 30 plus the friendly. Loan back, of course, is the main one that I want, not the arranged friendly necessarily, but they're already offering those usual incentives to try to get you to sell somebody. This is AFC Wimbledon. It's not the biggest team that's going to come along and try to offer something for Ollie Atkins, probably. But will a team exceed 50K is a big question, because that's where I'm starting to get. We've got most of the team now has a value of at least 20,000, many of them upwards of about 50,000. Can we expect other clubs to come in and spend that kind of money? For a championship club, 50K is nothing. But we're in the 6th tier. Are they willing to pay 50K for a player from the 6th tier is another matter. There's going to be limitations. Overall, for any player that they're going to go out and try to sign, 50K is nothing. It's literal pennies on the dollar, just as 5K would be or 10K would be. It's such a small amount from what they actually spend. The hundreds of thousands, the millions that they'll go in and spend. For a League One player, for a League One team, 50K is not a tiny amount. But as the market continues to push in a specific direction, even for a League One side, that's not nothing. And it is something that they could pay. But again, are they going to drop maybe to League Two they'd be willing to spend $50K for a player. But would they do that down at our level? Well, I'm not sure. So, to an extent, and I don't think it's certainly overall, and we very well could still be losing some players this summer. I think it's entirely possible. Like I said, for a championship club, $50K is not a big deal. I do think it's a big deal now for a League 2 or League 1 kind of side. And I think we're starting to rule out most of those clubs from transfer deals for our guys. I don't think they're willing to spend the kind of money that they're going to need to. Can they? Yes. Will they drop this many divisions down to spend that kind of money? Probably not. Hopefully not. For a championship club, though, I think it's still a possibility. Premier League clubs have taken very little interest in any of our players up to this point. So I don't think we're going to necessarily experience a sale to a Premier League club yet. They could dip down to, maybe a League 2, League 1 side. I don't think they're going to dip down this low, no matter how good the player is. They're going to let a championship or a League 1 side take their chances, grow them, develop them, and then sign them from them. A more proven quantity with better facilities and whatnot. They're going to not necessarily pay attention to that. They're going to look at the reputation that we have, the league reputation that we have, and see a player as completely unproven. Even if they see them as a potential wonder kid, they're unlikely to want to sign them. Or at least I think that that's how that would go. So our threat this season is to the championship clubs. I think there's a better chance than what we had previously, especially before we were professional, especially before 2 seasons ago. I think there's a better chance that we hang on to players. But I do think that at least one set of clubs, the championship clubs, can and might offer enough to pry players away from us. Depends on the player too, because like I said, some of them are going to be valued at 20K, some at 50. 20K we've already seen. We've seen plenty of offers that low. Now, I've gotten deals for 40K, 50K. But they didn't start there. They started at 15. We accepted. And then others were like, oh my goodness, look at this player. They're amazing. They're going to sell them for pennies like that? Oh, sure. And then all of a sudden 6 championship clubs come in and offer instead of 1, or 4 come in and offer. And the money goes up. 15K suddenly becomes 30K, becomes 40K, becomes 45, and then the player's sold for 40. So the 20K players are a little more in jeopardy. I have already agreed to terms for 4 or 5 players to extend beyond this year. I'm starting to get that safety net of multi-year contracts to help keep prying eyes away. But right now I've got 2 players in particular. Atkins, unhappy that he hasn't been able to join York. And, they offered less than he's even worth. He's got a lot of support out there in the team too. But Lanahan Penreese, he's exploring his options. He doesn't want to re-sign a contract. I will not let him go on a free just because they don't re-sign. I do have our minimum security. That's part of that minimum security. I would extend him by a year if necessary. We're not going to lose him for nothing. But also Wilkinson. Wilkinson is in that same boat. I agreed not to fine him. Oh, yeah. I don't know why he's not happy with that yet, but that's something they're fixing. FM24 apparently. Promises that are handled will be done. You don't have to wait 6 months for some sort of result, and 6 months for them to be unhappy and waiting, and then 6 months later something you did day 1, they're turn around and like, oh yay, or boo. If the outcome is determined, then the outcome is determined and you don't have to wait any longer. But anyway, Wilkinson's the other one who's in that same boat. So we do have some guys that are looking to get out, that are looking to not sign. For the most part, Wilkinson's not one that bothers me too much, but he does have potential and he is slowly getting better. It's watching these players with the higher potential that I'm trying to get signed on to those multi-year contracts to get that little extra security, to increase their value, to increase what it would take for other teams to come in and swoop them away from us, because those 20K ones aren't great. New contracts that are still waiting. There's 3 of them at the moment. A couple have already been signed, but here's our 2029 expiring. So at the moment, it's a fair bit of the senior squad. It's a fair bit, but there's already a few signed in there. So close to half. And if if we're looking at transfer values, we're looking at a lot of players that have even the minimum is quite a bit higher. So we're not losing any of these guys anytime soon. But we're looking at 24K. There's 18, but already a new contract. 18. There's 12. Kasungo Matomo, but he's not a high potential guy. He's not the ones we're threatened about. Sumahoro is. We've already got him on a new deal, and he's only valued at 14K. That worries me a little bit, even though he's making 24. I mean, looking at their salaries, we're up to 78,000 for Ollie Atkins annual. Davidson Arthur already new contracts to go pro, but then we still have a handful of guys down here, but a lot of them are like Greg, not big threats, or rookies, Duncan, Kamara, Adekunle, who have just come up. Adekunle was just on a youth contract. We just signed him to a professional one. He's played once, twice, so all he's looking for is minimum right now. But even then, he's already got that value of 20K, and he's not a proven quantity, so I don't think teams are going to come in for him. They're going to come in for our guys that have played the most, or guys that have developed the most, that are already there. Not necessarily an Adekunle, even though he's almost there. Next year, sure. This year, no. I doubt it. Ben Hassel, probably not yet, but maybe could start getting attention this year. But Sumahoro, that's one that I worry about. He's got the potential and already current ability. Berchielli very much could, but I just signed him to a 3-year deal. Hopefully that's going to keep him safe. But Lanahan Penrys, absolutely. Kitching, just signed a new deal, so maybe he's going to be safer now. Atkins, that's a big threat to lose. And like I said, Sumahoro. Thornhill, maybe, but probably not because of the potential. Redknapp should be safe. Adekunle, probably not for about a year. Same with Webb. Same with Davidson. Same with McFadden. But he was already getting attention. He's already 21. He's got years of proven ability and has high potential. So he doesn't show up, though. McFadden doesn't play particularly well, and we just signed him to a multi-year contract, I believe. I believe he's one of the ones that we did sign, so safety net for some of these guys. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to proceed through preseason, and your guess is as good as mine is what we start the season with. Hopefully, it's this squad right up here. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.